move. People fall into this trap unknowingly. Take for instance, somebody in US, maybe it's your brother, your cousin, uncle, whatever the bloodline relationship, says, please my brother, I want to send some money to you, to your account. You know I don't have account in Nigeria, I want to send the money to you, you will help me transfer that money to my cousin, to my brother, to my uncle. And it has happened, in fact, I think 2 weeks ago, while I was giving a lecture to my students, one of them was more than happy because he was about falling into that trap. And if you fall into that trap, it is a criminal offense, both of you. Now, the money rule is because you have allowed somebody to transfer money to your account, and in most cases, they will not even tell you why they are transferring the money. They will only tell you, help me pay to X. You know, I don't have an account here, or I've just acquired something from him. But that will not be the truth. Now, they have some ulterior motives behind that activity. And especially those that are hacking people's WhatsApp. One happened to me just about 2 months ago. The chairman of my environment, somebody hacked his WhatsApp, and then was sending messages to all of us within the estate. Some of us actually fell prey. Some transferred 200,000, some 300,000 to his account. But maybe because I happen to be a forensic person, I told him I don't even have mobile app on my phone, so there's nowhere to transfer the money. He said, okay, help me call. We were communicating, WhatsApp chatting. Help me call a friend of yours or somebody who can assist you to transfer the money. I said, I don't have anybody that can do such for me. But some people fell into that trap. Transfer 200,000, 100,000, 300,000. And I'm not sure if the chairman is actually responsible. What I mean responsible is if he will pay back, because he didn't send that person. He will have expected you to call him and find out whether truly that message was emanating from him. So we should be very be wary about such things. There are money moves all over the place. They want to use your account, and you don't even know, maybe they are kidnappers. And the moment you send money to that person, then you are in trouble. By the time they are tracing them, they now trace to you that you said, no matter how meager the amount you transfer, it has no basis. Let's say it's just 20,000. The moment it could be traced from you to him, and it's a kidnapper, then how do you want to exonerate yourself? And that is why we should be very careful, with money moves. Now, betting is something that is equally very common. Now, some of us when we travel, we get to the airport, and what you see at the airport is that you have free Wi-Fi, free this. I want to beg of you this morning, please, anywhere you get to and you see free Wi-Fi, do not take advantage of it. Because those free Wi-Fis are actually tinted with certain gadgets. As soon as you plug or link your system to them or connect with the system, so many information will be extracted from your system for their use. It could be your personal data, confidential data, data that are very confidential to you. Now, let me give you one information. Do you know even borrowing charging cable is dangerous? Yes. There are cables. If you are not in a forensic world, you may not have heard this. Now, there are cables. When it is given to you and you plug it into your system, the cable is sending signal to a control panel. Every information is going there. You will not know. All you know is that you are charging your handset, you are charging your laptop. Please, we call that baiting. And I want to beg of you, please, don't take advantage of everything free. It is not everything that is free that is good. Even in free time, there is no free anymore. Now, phishing is something that I'm sure we all know. Phishing involves sending fraudulent email messages or making phone calls, posing as trusted entities, such as banks, companies, government agencies, to trick individuals into revealing their personal information, such as passwords, account numbers, or credit cards. If such an information is sent to you, I want you to be very wary. You must be careful. Don't just send any information or any response to anybody, because it could be due to phishing. Be very careful. Always verify the sender email address and domain before opening attachment. And in fact, when you see some information and something is attached to them, you must be very careful. Something happened to me one day. I was using my laptop. I suddenly saw an information. I clicked on it. The thing began to roll. The thing was just collecting my information, but suddenly something alerted me. Before it gets to the end, I just quickly close it. That was what saved me. It was later I discovered that this is the kind of thing that would have happened to me. So be very careful. Don't just open any email anyhow. Or you want to, probably somebody is telling you it's from Mr. X, Mr. Y, and you probably know that Mr. X, Mr. Y. You need to be extra careful. Otherwise, you will fall into their trap. Now let us move into election to political offices. Time is now for us to actually change our political recruitment trajectory. Maybe we should copy or modify the Singapore system that base their qualification for election on such criteria like: 1, public complaint. We are not there yet. Public complaint, police traffic summons, public summons, racial hatred statements, corruption and bribery, legal court cases, tax fraud, abuse of power, FBI, CIA, Interpol checks. Now, in their own system, in fact, they just elected their 4th prime minister, and the criteria they used were all this. And the persons elected scored 0 points. In other words, he was not involved in any of these criminal activities. And that was what gave him the opportunity to get into that office. And until we begin to benchmark our selection or election on certain parameters, we may not get it right. Otherwise, we'll keep on recirculating the people that we know that has done wrong, that has committed fraud, and so on and so forth. But if we actually make use or modify these criteria, it might go a long way to assist us. Now, this electoral fraud is illegal interference with the process of election, which can include acts such as voter suppression, voter intimidation, improper voter registration, vote buying, ballot tampering, and election result manipulation, which we all know anyway happens almost back to back in Nigeria. So, and that is one thing we should be very careful, about, especially those of us that are fraud fighters. I think we have a role to play, but I will tell us the role later, not right now. My research findings show there is a brand of nuts whose print on paper appears almost like fingerprint. Now, why am I going to this place? I'm talking about electoral fraud. What do we use to determine our election? Fingerprint. And there is a particular nut we may not know, and I will not say because it could be very dangerous to me. Now that nut, if you impress it on a paper, you will think it's a fingerprint. Now, if you are not a fingerprint expert like me, because I specialize on fingerprint, you might not be able to actually decipher whether this is coming from human being or not, until you now begin to analyze as fingerprint expert before you know that yes, this feature is missing, that feature is missing, that other feature is missing. But ordinarily looking at it, his fingerprint, you begin to count the ballot papers. Now, my question is, it has not happened in our crime, but what if it happens? What can we do as fraud fighters in order to ensure that we're able to discover? That is a big question for Madam Titi, who is becoming the president very soon, in a matter of hours. What if it happens? The knots I know, so it's not a question of hearsay, but I dare not see. Now, put it on the paper and use your own finger. You will hardly distinguish between the two. Now, the point now is, what if the ships are down and some of our politicians use it? How will you be able to know? We need to think about that very seriously. There is an animal in the jungle somewhere whose fingerprint is 95% like human being. I have it, but I decided to remove it from here because I don't want to put myself in trouble. Now, when that animal cries, you think it's baby that is crying. When they are pursuing themselves, I have it, because that's my field. You think it's a human being that is crying. The point is, when you put their tips on the paper, you hardly can again distinguish between the one of human being and the one of those animals. The question is, what if I'm very rich and I know where I can get the animal? It's not in Africa anyway. So if I know where to get the animal and I went and bought it no matter what it costs, maybe cut the finger and begin to use it. Now the question is, how shall we be able to distinguish between the fingerprint of those animals and the one of human being? We need to work on it. Today, there is electronic device that can be used to forge signatures. What can we do to discern human forged signature from electronic forged ones when the sheets are down as forensic experts or fraud examiners who must appear in court to defend or prosecute an accused? How can we adduce tenable pieces of evidence from a laboratory to justify our engagement? Now, we have been engaged as forensic experts, as fraud examiners. You are welcome, man.
Thank you, no problem.
Thank you, sir. Now, the question is this. If
artificial intelligence.
Yes.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, you are not in a TikTok.
I wish I could do that.
Sir, come and join. Copy and paste. Yeah, it's part of intelligence. I don't get. Stay with me.
Thank you very much. I'm honored.
Now, the question is this. There are three issues that I have mentioned that are so critical. Now, one is about the knots, and we need to look into it very well. And I talked about the animal whose fingerprint is 95% according to scientific information. 95% like that of human being. 95%. It's only we, when we see it, there are features that make them different. Otherwise, if any other person sees it, you just pass and let it go. And there is this electronic device that can be used to actually duplicate or forge signatures. Now the question is, what if a signature is forged using that electronic device. Please, IT, can you roll it over to that place and let our people see that I'm not just... I'm not there. Still move on. Move on. Move on. You are not there yet. You still need to move on a bit. I'm sure it's there. Okay, I think that's it. You can play it. Click it once more. No. Click down now. Aha, that's it. Now you can see that electronic device. All you need to do is the signature that you want to forge. Just put that machine on the paper, let that signature be in front of it, and then there's a special pen attached to it. Now, if you look at it very well, you see copying that signature, it will be as perfect as it is. It is in the marketplace. It will copy perfectly well. No difference. Now you can return it to where you were before. Now the question I'm asking here is that we have had about signatures of the minister or president that was forged. Now, what if it was a machine like this that was used? We as fraud fighters, forensic experts, how shall we be able to actually discern that this signature was forged using this particular machine or using this machine? There are about 5 or 6 types of this machine in the marketplace. 5 or 6 of it in the marketplace. Now, what can we do to escape from this kind of danger? And that is what the fraud fighters and the ACFE members should be thinking about. Very important for us. Now we have procurement fraud. I wouldn't want to belabor us on all those again because my guy is already here to for his own paper and his own assignment. Now, protection of public sensitive documents. How can we do that as fraud fighters? There are softwares that we can actually install to monitor and track sensitive documents. I said this can be achieved using software and systems that track and record all changes made to important organizational documents and records. Here are some steps to install a digital audit trail to track the integrity of sensitive documents. What they are here, and I'm sure you will get to read it, is just there, for us, in case such a thing happened. And I now move on to talk about questioned documents. I will soon round up. Now, we all know what questioned document is. There is a difference between queried document and questioned document. Now, when a document becomes questioned, it means that it's subject to litigation. And if it is subject to litigation, there is a question that has to be resolved. Now, my own problem is, are we actually resolving the content? Because what I passed through, both practical, in my own practical experience and theoretical research, is that when we get to go to court as expert witness, how we do is about the content of the document. We are not doing anything outside. But I want to tell us this morning, is it still morning or afternoon? This morning, that we are actually not covering the entire thing that we're supposed to be covering when we are talking about questioned document. One, What are documents, made of? Papers are produced using 4 types of materials. Now, if we go to the court and there is need for us to actually talk or defend our client. Now, not we can throw to the works of our opponent is to say, this paper that we're talking about, what is it made of? When you get to the laboratory, you can test if a paper is made of wood pulp. You know what is wood pulp? And papers are made of wood pulp. If you get to the court, you can prove if a paper is made of a cotton wool. Papers are made of cotton wool. We may not know, but that is the truth. Papers are made of bamboo tree. This bamboo tree that we see. Papers are made from bamboo tree. Papers are recycled. In other words, the scavengers, when you go about all the waste paper that you throw into your trash bin, people pick it. By the time you pick all those trash papers, they are to be recycled. So when they are recycled, that's why you see some papers are always very brownish. I'm not talking about concrete. They are very brownish, they are not white. Those are papers that are made from recycled papers. Now, when you get to the court, how do you prove the source of the paper? And if you are able to prove that this paper couldn't have come from the question 1, you have already resolved that case completely, apart from talking about the content of the paper. Because what we do most in the court when papers are questioned or documents are questioned is the content that we go there to prove. But I'm now arguing is that what we should be proving in order to ease the case and get out of the case is if the papers are not made of the same stuff. That settles no problem. Well, space of kidnapping is very rampant these days. My recommendation here, because I want to handle it quickly, my recommendation here is that governors of any state where the incidence of kidnapping occurs should be made to pay the ransom, because they are giving security votes. They are responsible for our safety and security. Now, if you allow such a thing to happen in your state, if you are so careless that kidnapping here in your own state, then what do you do with the security votes? They should not be using it to pay the ransom. It's as simple as ABC. So they should be made to pay the ransom that are demanded from the security votes, so that it is not the victims that will be paying the ransom. Now, the national achievement so far, please you can just roll it up to that slide. National achievement. Well, here I want to commend the EFCC. They have done remarkably well. But the EFCC is making remarkable headway in chasing and apprehending fraudsters. Both the high and the mighty are steadily falling into the snare of EFCC, but more at the lower rung of the ladder, because their teeth cannot easily bite the operators at the level where there is no sanctuary of immunity clause, no godfather to run to, no shield of defense over their heads, and I wish them more success in cleaning our society of fraudsters. With their zeal to move now, the narrative will definitely change for good. Now let me just quickly tell you a story. I call it the story of the white garment friends that I met in the play. Now this set of friends, they sat together, they wore their white garments. I'll call the story short. Now whenever the ushers come across, on a very high long hall like that, they serve you wine, they serve different kind of thing. There was a particular one amongst them. Anytime they get to him and bring the tray, what do you want? He will say water. What do you want? He will say water. There is wine, there is alcohol. He will say water. So immediately as soon as we landed, they moved straight to the restaurant. Curiously, I followed them. When we got there, the one that was always asking for water, the first thing he requested for was champagne. And I went to him. But you said we are averse to, drinking anything alcohol. He said, my brother, when we were up there, we were very close to God. So you must not do anything sinful. But now we are far away from God. So anything can be done. Why am I saying this? I'm now charging ACFE as an institution. The Association of Certified Fraud Examiners International and its local affiliates should stop basking in the euphoria of data mining to report mainly on country corruption index. The association should embrace a paradigm shift and begin to play an active role in stemming the type of fraud by assisting investigating corruption cases as part of his corporate social responsibility. So I'm charging Madam Titi. Now, what we know ACFE for is that every year there'll be index, corruption index, all these index all over the world. I'm not saying that there should be a paradigm shift. Let them be part of the fraud fight. Let them join hands, especially with the civil rights activists, and then, fight the fraud itself, rather than just reporting the fraud whenever it occurs. I want us to note that the wealthy ones will not expose themselves or be against one another and will not provide any proof, even if they have such overarching evidence to convict their colleagues. They will always meet in the dead of the night to wine and dine and make mockery of us, the oppressed. How can a lion fight a lion to appease a cat? The time is now for the cat in the house to watch over the rats so that the landlord can sleep with his two eyes closed without the disturbance of the menacing rats at night. Shouldn't the National Assembly be under the watchdog of fraud examiners to monitor the monies they usually allocate to themselves whimsically and question the prudence or otherwise of doing so? I think that's another charge to the fraud examiners. The National Assembly should be under what they do. They carry out oversight functions. Shouldn't they be oversighted too? I think they should. Now, to almost conclude, let me tell you a simple story about, I call it the story of the demon-empowered hunter. The demon-empowered hunter. And I'm almost done. Now, one day, a hunter, very powerful hunter, went into the wilderness to hunt. And incidentally,